Welcome to the Period Besties podcast with Stasha and Katie. Think about it as chatting with your best friends about all the TMI stuff you've never talked about before with two period coaches who've been helping hormones collectively for over 20 years now. I'm Stasha.
And I'm Katie, and we're pulling back the curtain on what it's like in the world of menstrual coaching. From puberty to menopause and everything in between, we're here to show you how period coaching can save the day. We'll share practical tips and information you can put to immediate use to improve your hormones and happiness.
We're removing the mystery, ending the taboo, and shining a light on just how powerful period coaching can be.
So whether you need period coaching or are considering becoming a period coach yourself, these episodes are going to help you. We'll share stories, coach live on air, and bring smart, savvy guests to share their wisdom too. Let's start today's episode.
Well, we just finished interviewing Leonie Dawson, and that was quite a wild ride. I think we took some twists and turns that were not necessarily scheduled. They weren't on our question sheet, but that was really quite a fascinating conversation with a lot of permission to just be yourself. I loved it.
Yes. And I just love her process of she's like, I have an idea and I just do it. I was like, Katie, stop thinking about doing it. Just do it. This light bulb went off in my brain. So I feel like I gained a lot of insight personally through this conversation. And I think that everybody listening will also be given that permission to just like, F it, let's go, let's do it. Sounds more fun, sounds more exciting, more flow as well. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, you have to give her credit for being one of those people who just goes out there and puts things out and enjoys it and has fun and shows that. And that's one of the things I think makes her so successful. I mean, this is somebody with a multi-million-dollar a year business who just does the stuff that she finds fun. So if you want to listen to a good interview with somebody who's very successful, having a lot of fun with a couple neurodivergencies and an interesting first period story, then this interview is going to be for you. So I hope you all enjoy it. And without further ado, here's Leonie. Welcome to the Period Besties podcast. Today, I have the privilege of introducing Leonie Dawson, who I got to meet real life in person, squeeze and hug in Australia when I was there doing a speaking tour. And I absolutely adored her message and what she had to say. And I thought it would be a lot of fun to bring her on here and talk all those things, menstrual cycles and periods and birthing and all of that, with the added twist of neurodiversities that Leonie is such a beautiful advocate for. And we thought it would be really nice to have that representation here on the podcast. So thank you so much, Leonie.
Oh, this is so fun. And I've always prided myself on like, there's no question too far for me. And so I'm like, oh, well, let's talk period stuff. Like, that'll be awesome.
I mean, the tagline is nothing's too TMI. So,
okay, sweet. Well, I'm in the right place. I'm a Scorpio. So it's like TMI. Yes, I'm there.
Yeah, we want to hear real stories, not the like glossed over weird version that, people put out in the world of social media. So I'm excited.
Oh, I mean, I probably will still have some kind of weird version, but let's go.
Like it. So can you kick us off and just tell us who you are and what you do?
Oh, sure. Like when people ask me what I do, like in real life, I'm always just like, oh, just some weirdo who talks shit on the internet. That works. I don't really do the whole elevator pitch thing. If people press me, I'll go, oh, okay, well, I write books, maybe. Yeah. Sometimes I teach courses maybe about the internet marketing stuff. I don't know. Stasha, whatever. If people like me, they can research me and find out for them fucking selves. I don't really care.
Perfection. Utter perfection. Yeah. I will say that I'm in your Brilliant Business Academy and I adore it. So
yay.
If you like our weird discussion today and you are in business, consider joining Leonie's Business Academy. Oh, and I even have an affiliate link. So, hit me up.
Yay! Yeah, if I'd known that you were going to do that, then I probably would have said something like pretend to be professional or something and said
Yeah.
something really good about it. But
No. Amazing. So we're going to kick off, I think, right in the thick of things. Tell us your first period story.
ooh, I think I was 14. I feel really lucky that I had a sister who was 2 years older than me, who'd already sort of gone through it. I think at some point, I was born in 1982, so this would have been in the 90s. And so at that point, it was definitely like, I remember the tradition of at some point, you mother would select you off from the horde. And I'm one of five, so it always felt like you're just a part of the horde and be like, we are going to have a talk in your bedroom and nobody else is allowed to be there. And it was the birds and the bees talk. And of course, like a lot of things were covered that night. And then you'd sort of come out afterwards, sort of shell shocked and war struck by the conversation. So I can remember that happening to my sister and just like staring at like the closed door going, God, what's happening there? I can't really remember it happening to me, but it must have at some point. But I just got the information from my sister, so that was good. And by the time the periods happened, I was just at a point in my relationship with my mum that I was pissed with her, maybe just like particular teen angst. And so I was like, well, fuck her. I'm not going to tell her. So I told my sister instead. But yeah, I kind of kept it private for a while. And like the first conversation I had with my mum about it was, she was like, well, you're going to have to clean up that mess now because, the pads in the bin. She was pissy about that. So she was like, well, you have to clean that up now. And I was like, oh, okay, well, she knows now. She knows. So I think like that's really the only energy I have around it was just like I just know that there was like the birds and the bees conversation must have happened. And I think there was some kind of conflict happening at that time where I didn't share it with my mum. In terms of how it felt in my body, I've been very lucky in that I didn't really experience period pain for most of my life. So it was sort of like, okay, it's here. Okay, whatever. Like it hasn't been a source of tremendous anything to me.
I also grew up in the 80s and 90s, and most of my friends, nobody had the birds and the bees talk at all. So, oh yeah. So I love that your mom did do that and did bring you in and have the conversation, because that's just has not been, I've been hearing that the more and more that I've been talking about in my experience. It was like, yeah, no, my mom never had a talk with me either. I just got my period one day and that was that.
Oh my God. You're so right. Because also I went to boarding school. I went to boarding school when I was like for the later years of high school. But one of my dearest friends, who's still my dear friend, she was like, oh, Leonie, like when everyone was like 13, 14, sometimes you would hear screaming from the bathrooms because a girl had just gotten her period and hadn't been told, because most of the kids would turn up there when they were 13, like to boarding school, they get shipped off for high school, and they didn't get shipped off having had the talk. And so it was like the clan of girls would then have to try and teach them stuff.
Wow. The middle school video that was weird and awkward, and like they got you a pad out and showed you what it was and how to put it on, and they sent you home with a brown paper lunch bag, but with like a little kit of a couple of things. It was not exactly the most thorough, but it was at least something.
That is something. I am proud of that. And also that you got a goodie bag. That's incredible.
I just remember being like, this is like my lunch bag. This is super weird.
Yeah.
Why is it in a bag? And then now I realize it was because it was something you couldn't see through.
Yeah. And the movie,
the early 90s probably. So
yeah. And the movie's, the girl's name was Katie. And I just remember being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Because her name was Katie. But similar, we had a movie and we got a goodie bag. I don't remember what it was in, but yeah.
Well, It's absolved mom from having to have too much of a conversation, aside from the fact that I have my period. All right, great. Do you know what to do from here? I think I got it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Nice.
But to be fair, my
Nice.
mom had to deal with endometriosis and me being in severe pain. So she knew when I got my period every month after that, whether she wanted to or not. So she was a real sport through all of it.
Yeah.
Oh, so funny.
It really is when you look back at it and how how it was talked about then and how it's talked about now, and there's similarities and differences, but I think it's fascinating just asking that story and seeing how everybody's parents talked about it differently. Because I have friends who just had their dad growing up too. So like, what's that story there too? It's very different. They relied heavily on the movie that we saw. Well, I would love to explore menstrual cycle also with maybe before kind of discovering the neurodiversities and different things that you were kind of also learning about yourself. I don't know what the time period was, but I feel like teenage years is all about discovery. So kind of exploring a little bit about that too when it comes to your period and your menstrual cycle.
I think the most hilarious part for me is I'm a late diagnosed neurodivergent. So it's only been the last 10 years that I found out I'm autistic and have ADHD. And I think the funniest part of how it relates to my periods is that for this entire time of having my periods, I thought I had irregular periods. I thought that I had no cycle, and I thought that the length would change and the cycle length would change as well. It was just a hunch. And that wasn't backed up by me tracking my period because I didn't have the executive functioning to track my period. It was just a feeling. It was just a feeling. And then I started taking ADHD medication, and to my shock, discovered that I had a 21-day cycle. And I was like, oh my God, I must be going through like early menopause because my cycle has shortened that much. And so I went to the doctors and I was like, I've got a 21-day cycle now. This has never happened before. I am very concerned. Is this early menopause? So he did a whole bunch of tests, and no, it wasn't. And he was like, I don't know. And then it was only afterwards that I was like, I've always had a 21-day cycle. It's just at the time always feels very, very different because of ADHD time blindness. And I don't know how long my period goes for as well, because sometimes 3 days feels like an eternity. Sometimes 5 days feels like the shortest period on earth. Like, who fucking knows? So it was only once I had ADHD medication that I had the executive functioning available to work out what my cycle was. And I'm actually incredibly regular now that I'm on medication. It's just regular in that it's always been regular, just not in a way that I could decipher before.
So interesting. That makes so much sense though.
Yeah, I've always been like, oh, sometimes it's like forever since I've had my period. And sometimes like I just had it. This is so weird. I'm so irregular. It's, oh my God, I could not cope. And then like you telling my doctor about it, and he was just like, oh, Leonie, okay.
I just feel like since 2020, a lot of us can identify with time blindness. It was like that whole year, everyone was like, is it today? Is it yes tomorrow day? What is like time sort of lost all meaning in 2020?
Welcome to ADHD. We don't know.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine with ADHD who in 2020, and I was like, I can't even comprehend like what day of the week is it? What's happening? Nothing. And she was like, well, life. I was like, okay, great.
The amount of systems I have in place to try and get me to remember what day it is and what things might happen that day. Ooh, extraordinary. You should see my calendar. You should see the list of alarms I have in my Google Home.
I mean, to be fair, I'm right there with you. If there's not an alarm, if it's not on my calendar, it does not exist. So
Same.
Yeah.
So how did you end up tracking? Like what worked for you?
Oh, I started using just my health app on my iPhone to start tracking. I only did it for like 2 years, and then I was like, well, that's me done. Fuck this. I'm out. I'm bored. This is enough. And just went back to my usual way of like, it's always just been a constant surprise when I get my period. It's like, oh, okay. Okay. And it's only been like in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years that I developed enough body sense to recognize that my one boob usually hurts, like Lassie calling out that there's someone down the well, Lassie, is someone stuck down the well? Okay, booby. So that, like the boob, I was like, "Oh, you know what? I'm 35. It's been 20 something years of having my period. That usually means that is coming soon. God, look how wise I am. So incredible at pattern recognition now.
I mean, to be fair, most people don't know.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, you would be, well, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but pretty much everyone we talk to is like, yeah, I had no idea it was coming. I mean, I wanted to murder my husband and I, kicked everyone out of the house for 2 days, but like, I didn't put it together.
Oh my God. Oh, right. Okay, that's good to know. All right.
Yeah, it just goes to show how incredibly strong that cultural taboo is around periods.
Mm.
Like, can't even think about it. It's not even an option.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe yeah, you're right. And also because I'm in this sort of little hive of very blunt people who talk about it as though like every single day. So I forget that people don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would too if it weren't for the fact that people tell us these things.
Because we're like so dialed in, but then yeah, we hear it every day. Yeah. And it's interesting because once you just even have that first conversation and you just say, tap into your body, just really think about what's going on. And then you might not remember everything, which is totally fine unless you're like charting and tracking. But people do start noticing those small, subtle changes. They're like, oh my God, you're right. I do have signs. It's not a surprise. I can be prepared. I can bring things with me. Yeah, it's really interesting to watch that transformation when people just are given the permission to tap into that body knowledge.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
That's big stuff.
good stuff.
I feel like half of my job, or I'm sure Katie's feels the same way, is just pattern recognition for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Like we are the person there to help go, what about this thing though? We talked about this last month and that's back. What do you think that means?
Oh, good job, guys. Good job on helping people pattern recognize for those of us who cannot.
Yeah, someone's got to do it. And that is a big part of the job, is just like keeping track for other people, helping your clients notice those things, helping them sort of bridge that mind body gap and figure what things feel like and go, okay, probably a good sign that you're getting your period in the next 2 to 3 days.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah. Fun.
And we're recognizing that I am going to be a little bit more irritable and I'm going to warn the people that I live with. I put it on my husband's calendar. I'm like, this is expected period date. Just FYI, you're still going to notice I'm a little bit more mean to you that you always say, which I'm not, but you're going to notice. And just having that communication. I think it's just the communication between yourself and whoever you want to share that with too. Helpful.
So when you are navigating all of this, you have kids, you run a business. It's full on life you've got going on over there. What are some of those tips and tricks that you've developed over the years to manage everything along with ADHD and autism and keep everything afloat?
I mean, firstly, I try to make my life as least full on as possible. So I'm pretty clear on the things that really take a lot of energy from me and make things have an energy, like everything has an energy tax on it. And sometimes that energy tax is so large that it's just that I cannot do it. Or sometimes the energy tax is that I need to build in a day's recovery afterwards. So being really clear about that energy tax. So for me, traveling is an enormous energy tax. I'll be doing meetings outside the house, big energy tax. Having friends with have like going to dinner with my friends or whatever, as much as I love it, it's still got a bit of an energy tax involved. So I color code my calendar of the things that are going to drain energy from me and make sure that there's a limited amount of those per week, like probably 3 is my absolute maximum. And then I need to make sure that the activities around those times is much quieter and nurturing and things that give me energy back. I also have a bunch of systems in place in terms of making sure that I have a weekly well replenishment. So I have rules like I don't work at all on weekends. I do reduce, like I do work limited hours anyway, because otherwise I can be more prevalent to burnout. And on weekends, I always have in the afternoons like solo mama retreat. So that's just me to replenish my well. My kids will either play Minecraft with their dad, or they'll watch a movie, or they'll play together, or whatever it is that they want to do. But I've sort of given up the idea of, oh, it's going to be enrichment time all day, every day during the weekend. Just let them actually just be human, just normal humans, and let myself use that time to like lay in bed and read a book or do e-courses or art journal, whatever it is that fills my well back up. That's really, really critical to the rest of the week. And if I don't do that, then I'm sort of running on fumes for the rest of the week. And there's definitely like a personality shift, like it's an energy I'm bringing to my family that I don't really want to bring, hassled and harried kind of energy. So it's not really what I want to be. So those hours spent just reading a book or whatever is going to be so great. And I love that my kids, if they notice I'm getting frustrated or a bit overwhelmed, they'll be like, "Oh, Mom, it seems like it's time for you to have a lay down and read a book in bed now." They know that that's what that equals. And they encourage it because they're like, hooray, free from mother's clutches. I've always like, oh, would you like to read a book now? Or why don't you tidy your room?
I love that you color code with your energy. Like that I had so many thoughts when you were saying that about how genius that is. And then how I need to do that 100%.
Oh, it's awesome. It's something I learned from an autism organization in the UK. They teach their clients to do it. And I was like, that is genius. Genius. So yeah, I have a red for the ones that are just like, rah, that's going to suck the shit out of you. And then, yeah, green for the ones that are like, oh, good.
That's amazing. I have a chronic illness and I'm a spoonie, as they say. So I do the same thing. I often am like, how many spoons is this task going to take me? And will I have anything left afterwards or not? And I'm a giant introvert, which also does not help with the whole like existing in the world thing.
Oh, yeah, it's very debilitating.
It is. It's like I now exist and now I do not exist. I very much do not exist. Thank you.
Yeah, nobody finds me. Nobody finds me.
We have weekly Tai Chi classes here in the house that my partner teaches. And 2 times a month, I am endo flare fatigue and I'm just in the bedroom and I can hear them come in and go, "Oh, it's Sasha here." And then Chris, "Oh yeah, she's in bed." And they're like, "Oh, that must be so tough that she has to spend that time in bed." And I'm like, smoking a joint, reading a book, watching a movie. Yeah, this is real tough. I hate every minute of it.
Yeah, you're like having a fucking great time. You're like, there's nothing else I would rather be doing right now.
Like, no, I'm good. I'm just leave me here to be.
A follow-up question, because I call them energy zappers, right? And it's similar what we were talking about. So I'm assuming that like, I want to hear about your relationship with social media, because that can definitely be an energy zapper, right? And taking time off, knowing when to come back on, like what's been your journey with that? And how does that affect your energy? Like, is that a red or a yellow?
Oh, it's a red for sure. And I have to be very careful around it. One of the things that was really life-changing for me is a few years ago, I decided to just set myself a bunch of 21-day challenges of different habits that I'd wanted to try out. But only for 21 days because I didn't want to commit myself to the rest of my life, but I wanted to try it out for 21 days. And the first one I really wanted to do was 21 days of no social media. And at that point, my relationship with it was so enmeshed that I was like, I felt very anxious about doing that. I was like, but I'll miss out on so much. Like, oh dear, how am I like friendship's going to survive this? Uh, and so I was like, it's fine, just 21 days, we can do this. So I, went on the challenge. I removed myself from social media and for life and for business, just put a bit of a hiatus. And immediately, like my brain was healing in just some absolutely extraordinary ways. And I was like, I don't want to go back. I don't see a reason to go back. And I decided to make it longer than 21 days. And I thought for my business that I would just do like a 3-month hiatus, see how sales went, see how like the impact to the business, and always give myself the option to come back if I wanted to. And 3 months went by, sales were still great. And so I was like, okay, fuck yeah, I'm gonna just ride this out for as long as I can. So I ended up taking 2 full years off social media. I decided to do a little bit of a return because I wanted to create more videos. And like the way to share that was, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, it means social media platforms have to go back through and be like, okay, just because I made one rule for myself doesn't mean I have to keep it for the rest of my life. I can change my mind. And I can also like change my mind again. So if at any point I want to fuck it off again, I absolutely will. So now I'm sort of back on social media, but in a very kind of restricted way. So I actually don't really look at any of the social media for my business whatsoever. I batch create all the content and I schedule it. And I also, I don't have social media apps on my phone at all. I try to limit the capacity to do the unlimited scroll because that's really fucking boring and not great. And then sometimes when my mindset takes a dip, I'm like, okay, where am I at with like habits? Am I looking on my computer browser to go look at stuff for a quick dopamine hit? But then that dopamine hit is reduced like confidence and creative excitement. So tidying up the habits around that. So sometimes I like will block all social media sites from my computer as well. And if at another point I want to do like 7-day break or 21-day break or whatever, in order to shuffle up those habits, then I love that I've got that in my tool belt. I aim for just trying to have like neutrality around it and checking in with how my habits are going on that front. One thing I do notice is that when I read blogs using my RSS reader, like Feedly, it is such a green light for me. All it makes me want to do is go and write and go and create and go make things. Seeing people create in that format is a massive green shot for me. But I don't get that feeling when I'm on social media. Like I don't go, I can't wait to go write my own post. That's so exciting. So being really aware of that energy and how I'm going to continue preserving my creative energy and my mindset is really important.
I love that. How did your body feel not being on social media for 2 years? Did you notice a physical difference, like emotionally, mentally, physically, like health and wellness wise? Did you notice a change?
Yeah, I definitely noticed like a lot of freedom. And then also, especially on weekends, when I'm with my family, I noticed that previously I'd been feeling itchy to go and check what social media was doing when I'm with them, even when I really wanted to be with them and be really present. So there'd be like a part of me that's like, oh, I can't wait to sneak off to the toilet and check off social media for 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? And then when you just don't have that capacity anymore, you're like, oh, I could just be here. I could just like create other hobbies. I could have other things to think about. And that was delicious.
That is exactly why I started cross stitching again. I was like, I need for my hands to do that is not a phone.
Yeah.
trying to just like get back into reading books, but nothing was grabbing me. And I thought, okay, clearly I need something else to do. And funny enough, as soon as I started the cross stitching thing, picking up books and reading came right back. I needed that little substitution to give myself something to do that wasn't the phone. And then as soon as I had that habit broken, I was like, oh, here we go. There's this whole world that I had forgotten about and couldn't seem to connect with because the social media phone thing had cut it off. And yeah, I'm not a scroller anymore. I'm like, whoever shows up at the top of my feed today gets my comment.
That's awesome. And it's so funny, right? Because like I do long stitch just because my eyes can't handle cross stitch. I tried cross stitching, but it is like doing those kind of like granny crafts is incredibly useful to keep hands busy. And no wonder, like that is the Instagram of our grandmother's day. You're like, oh, what is Betty doing today?
Yeah, it was a real lifesaver and a real game changer. I really, it's tough, especially because at the time you have a good business and it's a scary leap to say like, hey, I've got a successful, well-earning business happening. I'm going to just shut down social media and get off of it. Where were people coming from outside of like, so obviously social media didn't make a difference to your income. So where were people finding you outside of that?
So before we left, I ended up looking at some of our search results and sales and stuff like that. And so only about 20% of our sales was coming from social media. And that included like we had spent like 6 figures on Facebook ads the previous year because we were trying that out as an experiment. So 20% was coming from social media, and we'd spent like pretty much all of our marketing time, all of our marketing budget on that. And so I ended up talking to my assistant and I was like, hey, what percent of sales from social media do you think like we would need in order for it to be like super worth it? And she'd be like, 40% at least, like the amount of time and energy you would put into it, like you would want that amount of benefit. And I was like, what if I told you it was 20%? And she was like, fuck off. Get fucked. The amount of time and energy and we've put into that, and what are we doing with our lives? And I was like, precisely. So that kind of statistic was really useful for us to look at. So for us, the vast majority of our sales comes from our mailing list because I spent so much time and energy building up a good mailing list by giving away free shit and by, writing newsletters and giving people like such a big, beautiful reason to look forward to receiving my emails in their inbox. So we have about 45,000 subscribers at the moment on our mailing list, and developing a long-term connection and relationship with them is really important to me. Like continuing to show up and serve and give is really important. So we get really high conversion rates from my mailing list. About 10% of our sales, 10 to 20% of our sales comes from affiliates. So that's people who have already used my books or my academy and love it so much that they want to share about it with their audiences. And I love that because they end up like one, being able to talk about what it's like a difference my work's made to them and their business, and sharing about it in such an authentic way. I think that's beautiful. And it also means that they usually attract the same kind of caliber person that they are. Sometimes with Facebook ads, we get some real fucking randos like rock up and you're like, oh no, we didn't mean to catch you. Sorry. It's like catching a dolphin when you're just trying to like eat some tuna, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, but like, I don't know, a Trump loving dolphin, you're like, oh no, bestie, you're in the wrong place. Run. Yeah. So that was a really fun and interesting experiment for us. And we have a little bit of search engine optimization going on, but like doing the experiment as well really made us revise what we were doing for marketing, because we literally have thousands of ways to market our business. Social media marketing is only one of them, and it's not necessarily the fastest or the cheapest or the most effective way of marketing. Like all the other ways of doing marketing often work a lot better. So spending more time in those directions because we had time not spent on doing social media marketing was really beneficial. For example, I ended up applying for a bunch of awards and winning them and speaking at some events. And those things were hugely useful in helping attract new people to me and starting to build that relationship with them and that nurturing relationship.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've really noticed myself in my business as well. Social media is not the place where people are coming in. So it was certainly like, okay, great. That takes a real load off. And then in period coaching school, kind of everyone comes in thinking, okay, well, let me start social media. And when I do the marketing masterclass and I go, okay, so social media is one of to market, they go, oh, thank you. Oh my God, I needed that. The relief on a Zoom screen. Like you can see everyone just go, oh, thank God. Yeah, it turns out a lot of people are not huge fans of social media as we feel like it because it seems like the world revolves around it. But it turns out quite a lot of people are not thrilled with it as it is. So I admire it. I admire your willingness to jump and see what happened and to let it go because it's hard for business owners to do that.
Mm. And then even if you like decide not to go or not, or, come back to it, making sure that you're doing it in a way that actually works for you and has like the least amount of mental impact to you while getting you the most amount of results in the shortest period of time. Being that level of strategic is really important. So I have a bunch of systems that I teach about, okay, if you're going to be there, here's how to make it sane and profitable and like least impact to you and most impact for your time and money. But people were so obsessed about me leaving social media. I ended up creating a program about it, marketing without social media, and reminding people of like, literally hundreds and thousands of ways that you can market without social media. Case studies of these very large companies that don't use social media marketing, and yet they're billion-dollar companies. Like they've just got other methods. And then I even look at some case studies of friends. Like I had a friend who's a hairdresser. She started a new hairdressing salon and I was like, how's business? And she's like, so slow. And I said, what are you doing for marketing? And she said, one social media post a day. And I said, what are you going to do differently? And she said, I'll do 2 social media posts a day. And I was like, no, like that's not working for you. So adding more is not going to help you. You're in an industrial suburb in your like with your salon. Why don't you print out a bunch of flyers and say, hey, new business neighbor, I've just started. You can come get your hair done on your lunch break. You don't have to leave that suburb. And because you're my business neighbor, I'll give you $20 off your first haircut. And she was like, huh, okay. I saw her a few weeks later and I was like, how's business? And she's like, fully booked. I did it. I printed out the flyers. I hand delivered them to a bunch of businesses on my streets. I didn't even manage to do all of them. And I was fully booked from that. And I was like, see, fuck social media as being like people thinking it's the only way to build a business. Sometimes the basic stuff, the old school ways of marketing get you so many more results in much less time.
That connection, right? It's that human connection that social media doesn't, it's pretending it's giving it to us, right? But it's not necessarily like that soul connection, like looking in someone's eyes. And I found my new hairdresser because I moved recently. I met her at an event and I was like, your hair is gorgeous. Can I have your hair? Like, and I didn't even know she was a hairdresser. She's like, oh, I'm actually a hairdresser. And we started talking. So I started going to her because I was like, she had the most beautiful hair.
Oh,
and we just struck out. I talk to everybody. I'm like opposite. I'm like such an extrovert, but I'll talk to anybody. I'll talk to a wall. But I just went up to her and I was like, your hair is so beautiful. Like, what products are you using? I need something new products. And then we just started talking and now she's helping me with my hair.
that is so beautiful. How good is that?
Yeah. And that's what I think that's what we're all missing, which is why I'm loving all this conversation we're having, like just really that human connection.
Yeah. And actually, on that topic, I'm wondering if there's something that you do to prepare. Like I said, I'm in your groups, I'm in your calls. In fact, I signed up for Smarter Q for social media scheduling, so I could not exist on it even more because your brilliant suggestion, and I love it. So your calls are, you just like, boom, boom, answer question, answer question, answer question, answer question. Sometimes they're just like chaos personified on a Zoom screen. But they're great and super informative. And I'm wondering, you create all of this amazing connection in this space, even a virtual space. Is there something that you do beforehand to prepare yourself to, essentially see clients in a group setting? But like, is there something that you do to kind of get your head in that space, or do you just like get in there?
Yeah, I've been doing this for so long. It's just I roll out of bed, I rock up to the Zoom screen, I think, oh, what's my hair doing today? Push it down, and then I'll be like, fuck yeah, let's go. Because you usually the answer is either like I know the answer to that or I don't know the answer to that. And I'll just tell people I don't know the answer to that. I'll go, I'm not the specialist in that. Google it. So I'll do my best. Well, that's as good as it gets. And if I see people I just try and point people in the right direction. Like sometimes people are dealing with such a big thing. I'm like, that sounds really hard. And it seems like you're needing some one-on-one support with that. So can you do kinesiology or intuitive healing or therapy or whatever modality works for you? Go for that. Realizing like the limitations of me as a teacher of one to many, like I'm not going to be able to be everything to everyone, but I can gently refer people to the places that they're needing it. Or if I've already talked about something, I'll be like, I've already got a program for that. Go watch that program.
Yeah, you do have a lot of programs. So
Yeah.
I love the freedom in that. Like just the freedom to just rock up and just be like, hey, let's do this. And I also appreciate you saying, if I don't know, I just say I don't know, which is something that the students, and I feel like every year, every new batch, we go through this whole well, what do I say if I don't know the answer? I'm like, you're never going to know all the answers. Your answer is in one-on-one coaching to just say, oh, that's a great question. Let me do some research and get back to you in our next session. I don't know. That's a great question. Let's all Google together as a team right now. Or do
I also
on the call.
exactly. And I also love that because it's group coaching, oftentimes I don't have the answer, but somebody else does, somebody else, because it's maybe 100 people on a call, they're like, oh, the answer is this. And I'm like, I love that. That's the best. And that's how connections are formed. We're stronger together.
100%.
And that being so authentic to yourself, that's why people are drawn to other people, is just feeling like that. I don't know. It's okay not to know. And you give permission to other people to be okay not to know.
Yeah.
Because we're all afraid of not feeling like we know it all, even though we know we don't know it all. Right. But that fear.
Yeah. It's like you don't have to know all the things. Like there's so many parts of business that I still don't know. And that is the whole point of business, is that you get good at some areas, you test a whole bunch of other things, but you're not going to know about every single detail about every single marketing method. That's what the rest of humanity is for,
Yes, well said. And that's what the rest of humanity is for. Zing. I love that. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left. Katie, any last questions before we dive into the lightning round?
I would love, because I'm in the process of starting to write my book, I would love to hear a little bit about your books and how you knew when it was time to start writing the book, and your process. Did you schedule everything on your calendar? Like how time blocking? Tell us about how these books were born.
I love that Star just started laughing at that, looking at each other, just a look of that is so cute that you think I would schedule shit. So here's how the process works for me, just for my sweet little brain. So I have an idea, and then, it might just be percolating in the background for a while. And at a certain point, I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to do it. And I set the shortest, sharpest deadline I can and be like, I'm going to have this done in 3 days. I'm going to have this written in 7 days. I'm going to have this done by I'm going to have like 40,000 words written by the end of this month. And then I just go hell for leather on it. I just go absolute banana-ramas on it and monofocus as much as I can and just pour it out into the world. If you said to me, you have a year to write a book, the book is not going to get written ever. A short, sharp deadline? Yes, I can do that. A book written in a month? Yes, I can do that. And that doesn't mean that I'm spending all day, every day writing that book. The thing is with writing books is that this is the dirty little secret, is that it doesn't actually take you that amount of time to write a book. What takes you the amount of time is thinking about writing the book and then second guessing yourself as you're writing the book. Whereas if you're just like, you know what, it's not my job to second guess, like I'm just going to write the fucking thing, then you can just get out of your road and write it. So I did like 40,000 words while I had hyperemesis gravidarum, which is a chronic pregnancy illness. And I needed to write 30,000 words by the end, 40,000 words by the end of the month. So I was like, okay, I just need to have 3,000 words written by the time the sun sets. And because I knew that I had a little patch in afternoons when sometimes I wasn't spewing, so sort of muster up the strength. Like at that point, I would stop for a spew break. I'd walk outside, have a spew, walk back in, keep typing. 3,000 words done, go back to bed, and got it done that way. When I'm not spewing, things are so much easier. Like life is a fucking breeze when I don't have to write while spewing. So the goal workbooks, when I originally brought them out, I think it was 3 days of writing the books, and that was drawing and illustrating and putting it all together. It was pretty fun. Like I just love to just dive headfirst into a project and make it happen. I also wanted to write like a romantic, well, erotic novella during quarantine because I'd always wanted to. So I think I gave myself like maybe 5 or 7 days to write that. Also very fun. That's why I teach like 40 days to finish your book, because most people can finish their book within 40 days. And so we've had like thousands of clients do it that way now. It's so much easier than going, okay, it's going to be a 6-month long process. Like fucking shoot me now.
I think you just unblocked my brain.
Hey, that's what I do.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna schedule it in. I'm gonna give myself to the end of the year. No, when Stasha's in Europe, I'm gonna write my book.
Yes. You got 1 month.
Yeah.
That's right.
Get it done.
1 month.
I expect
Get it done.
I expect the rough draft on my desk when I land back in the States.
Yes. I can do that. I like that. I don't know why my timeline was so long. Okay, thank you.
Everybody's is. It's stupid as shit. It's so just like make it much, much smaller.
It does help. This last book dragged on because I had editor issues, and then I finally got an editor locked in, and it was 1 month for me to rewrite the second draft with the new order. Like once she went through and was like, this is 80,000 words. And she was like, okay, this is going to be how the and it's all text. So it's just like, this is how it's going to fit. And this is what the new flow is going to be. And then I was like, okay, great. And it took me just a month of just sitting down and rewriting it with the essentially new table of contents as my guide. Yeah. And then I was like, and I had a deadline. Like I had to have it done before my flight takes off, which is tomorrow morning. So I got it done 2 days ago, and I was like, and now I get back. So
and this is the thing, like that shorter period of time just really lights a fire. And it doesn't mean that you can't do other things during that time. Like I've had people literally like they have a loved one in hospital and they are in hospital with their loved one caring for them, and they can write their book and finish it in 30 to 40 days. And they've said to me, oh, it actually ended up being such a healing experience for me, because when my loved one was napping, I would just write my book, and it was me time, and it was incredibly nurturing and fulfilling to spend that time on my dream.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Me time, right? That's in the how to write a book chapter of my upcoming book. I said, what do you visualize a successful author doing? Like, what are they wearing? Where are they sitting? Are they indoors or outdoors? Are they drinking tea or coffee or a smoothie? Like, what does that feel like for you? Just go do that for yourself. Like, have a moment and make the tea, get out the fancy teapot, whatever it is. But like, it's a little bit of you time, essentially. So put on your successful author outfit and get it done. Although my successful author outfit is sweatpants and a nasty old t-shirt at the kitchen table, but it got done.
Me too. That's like I don't have fucking fancy rituals. My ritual is just make the fucking thing.
Yep. I did need the fancy tea though. The fancy tea really that was it for me. I needed the fancy tea.
That's important. So important.
Okay, lightning round. Before we do the lightning round, Leonie, where can people find you out there on the World Wide Web?
Oh, onlyfans.com. Just, yep. Have fun going there. Otherwise, maybe if you wanted to, you could go to leoniedawson.com, but that's really up to you.
Yeah, I'm going to OnlyFans, that's for sure.
Yeah, you make your choice in life, guys.
Perfect. And where do they go to see all of your free shit?
Oh, weirdly enough, there is a free shit page literally on my website, leoniedawson.com, and then just like click on the free shit link. And then you can see all the free shit that I've made over the years. And there's like 300-page coloring books, there's like workbooks, there's meditations, I don't even know how much shit's in there, but there's a lot in there. Free posters, like whatever, go ham.
I love it. I have some of your cards myself sitting here. So I have some free shit that's actually here sitting in
real,
inspiring me. Okay, ready for the lightning round?
Am I ever born ready?
Go with your guts. Question number 1. What's your biggest craving?
Alone time.
Yes.
Like that. So how do you get alone time?
By hook or by crook, anywhere I can. The solo mama retreats on the weekends are really big for me. Even just work time is really good. People have asked me like, oh, why don't you like join a co-working space? I'm like, I would rather fucking die than join a co-working space. I went like and lasted 1 hour. 1 hour in one. I paid for the day, lasted 1 hour. I was like, this is not for me. Or I can manage like a cafe with headphones on. Look at me go, so social.
Yeah, that's about the best I can do as well. What's your favorite way to move?
Pilates.
What's the number one self-care go-to when you're stressing?
Lay down.
Right? Underrated.
There is like a whole bunch of research as well as that for neurodivergent people, it helps to sort of reset their nervous system. So even just a little 20-minute horizontal time, it just takes a whole bunch of pressure off the nervous system. So before like my red events in my calendar, I'll pre-game them by having some lay down time.
Yeah, we have that in our house. We just have the like, hey, I just need to go be horizontal for a little bit. I'll be back with you shortly. Leave a message after the beep. What music do you listen to when you're working?
Oh, usually it's a strange, like little YouTube music plan called like Music for Focus or something like that. And it's just like, wow, kind of vibes.
Your favorite place or country you visited?
Australia. I live in Australia. Like I've visited other countries, don't get me wrong, but like I just have this mad love for this country. It's just magical. And just there's so many places. Like I've lived all around Australia and, traveled all around Australia, and there's just so much magic here. And there's something about the energy that totally calls to my soul.
I get that. Favorite holiday?
I like my husband's birthday. I like other people's birthdays. Because then I could just be also so fully present in watching them enjoy their thing. Like It's fucking delicious, honestly. Other people's birthdays. That's my favorite holiday. Love my own birthday. I just want to be clear, but yeah.
I knew this was going to be a Moira Rose answer. Like in the show, Moira Rose, someone says, "What's your favorite season?" Meaning like spring, fall, whatever. And she goes, "Awards." And I was like,
Her.
you know that I'm going to ask this question and it is not going to be like Christmas. It's going to be something else.
Yeah.
I love that. Is there a food that you dislike, hate, don't ever want to eat again?
Ooh. I think there's so many that I just like cancel them off my list. Like I don't eat seafood at all, really. And I firmly maintain it's because I'm a mermaid. So it's like cannibalism.
Perfection. Pumpkin spice, yay or nay?
Australian, never tried it.
Fair enough. Well, get some cinnamon and some cloves and some vanilla and add it to something someday and tell us what you think.
I didn't realize that was just
Okay.
an American thing.
100% American. Yeah.
For Thanksgiving is certainly just an American thing. And I think that's where the pumpkin spice phenomenon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just associate it with like Halloween. I don't know why.
Oh yeah. And we don't have like pumpkin pie either in Australia. Like pumpkin is just a vegetable that we eat, but not in a dessert format.
Hmm. Well, speaking of eating, do you cook?
Oh, I do. I'm so posh. I'm so posh. It was like I didn't really work out the whole cooking thing until much later in life. For me, using a meal delivery kit service is hugely useful to having neurodivergence because it cuts out a whole bunch of the executive functioning required. And I just love like that it has this cute little recipe with cute little step-by-step instructions with cute little photos. So that's been really life-changing for me, and it's taught me how to cook. It's using services like that, like HelloFresh or Marley Spoon.
That's so good. I've heard that from other people too, that they're just basically little lifesavers, and love that. Absolutely love anything that supports you and makes your life easier is a win in my world.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite place to work?
Bed, obviously.
All right, last question. What's your ideal Friday night?
Vegging on the couch with my whole family, watching some trash together. Well, not even trash, something like Taskmaster that makes us all have a nice little cackle. Having just being cozy together. That's like, chef's kiss.
I have to agree with that. I love it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. And we didn't even get into like, I don't know, a third of the things that we had on the list to get into. So we'll probably just have to have you back at some point. But thank you so much
Love
for
it.
joining us today.
Yes, let's do it. That'll be awesome. I love you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being you, for being just an awesome human being who's willing to just share everything, balls to the wall, lay it out on the table with the world, and giving a lot of people a lot of permission to just be themselves. So thank you.
Yes.
Oh, babes, I hope you have the most incredible time in Europe. And Katie, I can't wait to read your book. You've got a month. Suck it, girl.
All right. Your ladies will be the first to know when it's done.
Yes. Yes, I love it.
So good. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone who is listening. And we'll see you all in the next podcast. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, my love.
A big shout out and thank you to our sponsors for today's episode, Period Coaching School and Katie Bresek Wellness.
Thanks to you, our favorite bestie, for listening to the Period Besties podcast, where no topic is TMI. And of course, share this episode with your besties.
Remember to leave us a 5-star review, nothing less than the best for us besties, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
You can follow us on Instagram at Stasha Washburn and at Katie Bresek, or email us at periodbestiespodcast@gmail.com.
Check out more about us at katiebresek.com and periodcoachingschool.com. And of course, check the show notes for free goodies and extras that support this episode.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye for now, besties.